Don't Paint Your Chickens is, as is always the case, a very funny episode of Cheers and quite a roller coaster. This is the 15th episode of the 7th season. It's directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the events in the episode and share some thoughts. And it starts off with Frasier coming in, wanting to read out this paper about Ingmar Bergman to see if it's still accessible to the layman. And the guys are not really that interested and basically don't listen, and Frasier gets very frustrated. Not a bad way to start things off. We then establish that Rebecca is at a corporate meeting, and then a woman comes in called Erin. She's played by Lisa Aliff, and Sam, clearly sensing an attractive woman has entered, soon comes into the room as well, and he starts to flirt with her. She's clearly very athletic, and Sam says that he enjoys sports as well, and she's not that interested, but he tells her, if you can punch me, and it's fine, you'll go on a date with me. And she agrees, and she punches him in the chest, and he's fine. Honestly, I was waiting for something to happen. I was waiting for him to double over in pain once she left, which didn't happen, but what happens with that part of the narrative does end up being quite fun, and we'll talk about that as we get there. Woody is baffled by what Sam has just done, so he tells him it's worth a try. So he agrees. He walks up to this woman and he asks her, if I let you punch Sam, will you go on a date with me? Which is not quite what Sam had in mind, but I rather enjoyed it. Not a bad way to start Sam's part of the narrative. Rebecca then comes in. Love her outfit. Absolutely love it. And she's really happy. She thinks that she's a winner. They're going to love her and all these amazing ideas, and they couldn't keep their eyes off of her. She takes off her coat and reveals, she says that it's her lucky fountain pen that she was using. Sam confirms that it was more of a leaky fountain pen. Her pen had left a giant ink stain on her skirt. And everybody's looking at it, saying what it looks like in a kind of ink blot way. Cliff comes up with a pretty depressing story. It was nice fun. Norm then comes in, and it turns out he was a day late for a painting job. He got the day wrong. He wasn't just late because he couldn't be bothered. So obviously the restaurant hired somebody else. And Rebecca suddenly has what she thinks is a brilliant idea. And she explains this with the following. If I can turn a beer-guzzling nobody into a successful businessman, then those guys down there at corporate will see that I can do anything. Norm isn't flattered. He's not interested in working with Rebecca, but then she kind of threatens him with his bar account, and he welcomes her to Team Peterson. I really like Rebecca's enthusiasm, and I also love Norm, and I kind of feel like together, as we see, they kind of work well, but also not, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. Sam then comes in with, he's wearing sportswear, he kind of pulls a muscle in his shoulder, he then dashes out, he's going off running with Erin. I like the fact that we don't actually see that much of Sam here, and I kind of like that it implies, or at least this is my reading of it, that he's just bouncing around. He's in and out, he's busy, he's doing all of these activities, he is on the go, and therefore not just spending loads of time at Cheers. I kind of like the fact that the absence of Sam kind of suggests that he's very busy, and I kind of like that. Not that I'm saying I don't want more Sam, but I think it works really well. And then we have a great exchange. A couple of great exchanges, actually, between Cliff and Norm, and then Norm and Rebecca. Because once Sam leaves, Cliff says to Norm, you know what's wrong with our lives? And Norm replies, yeah, we have lousy jobs with poor pay. We waste all of our time sitting on our cans in this beer hall doing nothing but watching TV and gossiping like a couple of old ladies. Plus, everyone thinks we're doofuses. And I just think, yeah, that's a pretty fantastic description. And Cliff replies, I was just going to say we could probably use a little bit more exercise. And we don't have too much time to dwell on this because we very quickly come in with even more comedy. Rebecca comes out of her office and says, oh, Norm, there you are. To which Norm replies, oh gee, how'd you track me down? Funny in itself, but also reinforcing what Norm has just said. So I really thoroughly enjoyed that. And Rebecca has come up with some marketing ideas for Norm's business. She's decided, I don't think it was her place to decide on the name of Norm's business, but she's decided to call it 4A Painting, as in the number 4, the letter A, because it'll come up top in the phone book. And 3A was taken by AAA, obviously. And she's come up with, I have the same thought as Norm, because she comes up with this character, and she shows this character, and I have to say, it's brilliant. I'd love to know who designs this. It is, a character wearing overalls and holding paint cans, and Norm said, a lizard. And I had thought it was a lizard as well, but Rebecca confirms that it's actually Carl, chameleon, and obviously Carl the chameleon changes colours like your house. It actually makes sense. I still think it looks more like a chameleon. And Rebecca's really excited. She has so many different thoughts, and she happens to mention, just as she's going back into her office, that it'll only cost around $2,000 to $3,000 to get all of this marketing up and running. And Norm, understandably, cannot afford that at this time, and realises Rebecca is probably going to cost him more than he's able to make. And everybody encourages him to go and tell Rebecca this and to fire her, and he's making kind of roaring, barking noises. And he does this even in the office. We even hear him making a kind of barking roar at Rebecca. And the next thing we know, everybody's watching him, Carla and Frasier and Cliff, and he then comes back out a second later, and they ask him how it went. And he says, great, we found a new voice for Carl. And then he does a little soft barking roar. It was just the cutest thing ever. I was going to put it as one of the thumbnails for this, but it's such an adorable moment that I don't want to spoil it until people are aware that this is a very spoiler-heavy discussion. But I absolutely adored that moment. I thought it was very, very cute. And clearly, Rebecca still has her way, because the next thing we see, Rebecca and Norm have these hats on with 4A on them. I'd love to know where those hats are now. And the phone rings, and it's this bright red phone, very attractive. I like the fact that they made it very clear that this is the 4A line, different to the Cheers line. And it rings, Carla answers. Turns out somebody had mistaken them for AAA. And then they get another call, and it seems like they might be getting a job. And Norm says to them, I'd like to thank you for making 4A painting your 4A into painting, which is so cheesy. And I really like it. And they're both really excited because it looks like they're getting their first job as 4A painting. Sam then walks through the bar with a bag on his back, and he's about to go climb a mountain with Erin, but asks Frasier to make him stop. Because clearly Sam doesn't want to be doing this, but he can't help himself. And Frasier suggests maybe Sam just slows down a little bit. Erin comes in and punches him in a very playful way. And Sam realises the only way to get out of this is to tell Erin that she's just slowing him down, and he needs to be with somebody who can keep up with his pace. And in a cruel twist of fate, she says that she's kind of relieved he said that, because she just wants to be with somebody who just wants to relax and have a bubble bath with her. And off she leaves. And Sam is devastated and in pain. There's another phone call to the bar. Woody takes the call, and then he turns to Rebecca and says that there's a new director of advertising. And for a split second, we're led to believe it's Rebecca, until Woody confirms it's somebody called Henry Weinberg. And Rebecca realises enough is enough. She's going down to corporate. She's going to give them what for. And Norm says, shouldn't we wait until we have 2 jobs before you do this? 2 painting jobs? And she says to him, no, I believe in you, Norm. I believe in me. And I'm doing it, babe, which is her motto, apparently. And she opens the door. And we just see from a distance Sam. We don't even see Sam's head, but we see him curled up on the floor, clearly in pain, and she just kind of steps over him. And just as she leaves, the phone rings, the 4A phone rings, and Norm answers it, and it turns out they're not getting that painting job after all. And Norm then runs after Rebecca, because he's now concerned that she'll give the company what for. She has no evidence that she can run a successful business, because 4A painting isn't doing well. I know it's early days, but this is what Norm is thinking. And then somebody will replace Rebecca, and she'll be replaced with somebody who isn't as kind with his bar tab. And he runs after her, and we see him entering this, the reception of clearly the person Rebecca is speaking with, and he's then led out of the building. And then we're with Rebecca. In the room, she's talking to Mr. Anawalt, played by Stefan Gierasch, and before she gets a chance to really say what she's feeling, all we see is Norm on one of those window cleaning platforms, moving slowly, holding this giant sign that says "No job." And Rebecca clearly realizes this means they've lost the painting job, and she's about to just say thank you for this opportunity and leave the office. And then she realizes actually this is her chance to say something. And she was quite harsh. And she said to Mr. Anawalt, "You wouldn't know a good marketing executive if one came up and bit you on the butt." And she had a few more things to say, and he stood up and he said to her she had a lot of nerve saying that. And this company was built on nerve. And I think very surprisingly, he offers her a triple raise in salary. I don't think he knows what her current salary is, so that's quite a claim, but he offers her a triple raise and an executive position at the company, and everything's perfect. No problems. Rebecca's got her dream job. A second later, the FBI come in and arrest Mr. Anawalt for insider trading, and he pretty much admits it. It's not a false accusation. It's true. Rebecca's clearly not getting her raise, and she says to herself, "I think I am the unluckiest person on earth," which honestly I think is pretty true. And she leaves the room. But then we see something that's maybe a little bit more unlucky. Norm is basically stuck on the window cleaning platform, going up and down, and it's pouring with rain. And it was quite a funny way to end things. So definitely a roller coaster of an episode. Personal highlights would have to be Rebecca's outfit at the beginning. I absolutely loved it. And also the reveal of Carl Chameleon. And just the whole handling of that character, I thought it was adorable. The discussion with Norm and Cliff about being doofuses, and then Norm saying, "Oh, gee, how'd you track me down?" when Rebecca came in. Just the comedy in those kind of couple of seconds, that minute or so, was just absolute perfection. The whole 4A painting thing, I loved how it played out. I loved the phone. I loved the hats. Really good fun. Sam curled up on the floor at the at the entrance to Cheers. Oh, poor Sam. And yeah, those final few seconds as well, definitely. And just Norm, the reveal of Norm holding the whole no job sign on the window cleaning platform. Very funny. Really thoroughly enjoyed this. Very entertaining. Definitely an unpredictable episode. As is pretty much always the case with Cheers, Don't Paint Your Chickens is a pretty perfect episode.